It had been a friendship that spanned decades, a connection rooted in shared memories, mutual support, and an unspoken understanding that needed no words. Evelyn and Daniel had met during their early 30s when both had been new to the same neighborhood. Their bond had formed effortlessly, starting with simple conversations over shared gardening tips and growing into a relationship of deep trust and companionship. Evelyn was now 63, a woman of elegance and quiet strength. Her silver-streaked auburn hair framed a face marked by the kind of beauty that only deepens with age. Her eyes were a soft hazel, warm and expressive, with a depth that hinted at years of both joy and loss. She carried herself with poise, her movements graceful and deliberate, her demeanor both inviting and composed. Her life had been a mix of successes and heartbreaks, a marriage that lasted until her husband's untimely passing, a son who now lived across the country, and a career she had retired from with quiet pride. Evelyn lived alone in a charming cottage on the edge of town, her days filled with gardening, reading, and volunteering at the local library. Daniel, her closest friend and neighbor, was a man of 65 with an easy charm and a rugged handsomeness that had only grown more striking with time. His salt and pepper hair was always neatly combed, his blue eyes sharp and filled with a kindness that drew people to him. A retired schoolteacher, Daniel had spent his life guiding others, his voice always calm and steady, his words measured but thoughtful. For years, they had been each other's confidants, their friendship a comforting constant in an ever-changing world. They spent countless evenings on Evelyn's porch or Daniel's patio, sharing stories over cups of tea or glasses of wine, their laughter mingling with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant crickets. They had seen each other through the highs and lows of life, Evelyn's grief after losing her husband, Daniel's struggles with loneliness after his divorce, and the everyday joys and challenges that made up their lives. Yet through it all, their relationship had remained firmly rooted in friendship, a bond that neither had dared to question or redefine. Until one evening changed everything. It was a warm summer night, the kind that begged for open windows and gentle breezes. Evelyn had invited Daniel over for dinner, a simple meal of roasted chicken and fresh vegetables from her garden. They sat in her cozy dining room, the table adorned with a vase of wildflowers and soft candlelight that cast a warm glow over their faces. As they ate, their conversation flowed as effortlessly as ever, moving from light-hearted banter about Daniel's less-than-stellar attempt at baking bread to more thoughtful musings about the passage of time and the legacies they hoped to leave behind. Evelyn felt a familiar sense of contentment as she listened to Daniel speak, his voice like a balm that eased the ache of loneliness she tried so hard to ignore. After dinner, they moved to the living room, each settling into their favorite spots, Evelyn on the plush armchair near the window, Daniel on the sofa that faced her. A soft jazz tune played in the background, the melodies mingling with the rhythmic chirping of cicadas outside. Evelyn poured them each a glass of wine, the rich aroma of the red blend filling the space between them. It was then, as they sipped their wine and fell into a comfortable silence, that Daniel leaned forward, his expression shifting from relaxed to something more serious. "Evelyn," he began, his voice quieter now, tinged with a nervousness she rarely saw in him. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something I've kept to myself for far too long." Evelyn set her glass down, her hazel eyes meeting his with curiosity and a hint of concern. "What is it, Daniel?" she asked gently, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. He hesitated, his fingers tightening around his glass as he searched for the right words. "We've been friends for so many years," he said slowly, "and I've always cherished that. But somewhere along the way, I realized that what I feel for you goes beyond friendship." His confession hung in the air, the weight of it pressing against the walls of the room. Evelyn's breath caught, her heart racing as she tried to process his words. "Daniel," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I don't know what to say." He smiled faintly, his blue eyes softening as he set his glass down beside hers. "You don't have to say anything right now," he said, his tone reassuring. "I just needed you to know. You mean more to me than I think I've ever let myself admit." Evelyn felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of surprise, gratitude, and something deeper, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. "Daniel," she said finally, her voice steady now, "you've been my rock for so long. I don't know what I would have done without you." She paused, her gaze dropping to her hands as she considered her next words. "But I think I've been afraid to admit how much you mean to me. Afraid of what it might change." He reached out, his hand covering hers in a gesture that was both grounding and electrifying. "Change isn't always a bad thing, Evelyn," he said softly. "Sometimes it's exactly what we need." Slowly, she lifted her gaze to meet his, her hazel eyes shimmering with unspoken emotions. "Maybe you're right," she whispered. Their first kiss was tentative, a careful exploration of boundaries that had long remained unspoken. But as their lips met, a flood of emotion surged between them, years of friendship, unspoken longing, and a newfound passion that made the room seem to glow with warmth. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship, one that was filled with both challenges and joys. They navigated the shift from friendship to romance with care, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They discovered new depths to their connection, their evenings filled with laughter, shared dreams, and the quiet comfort of knowing they had found something truly special.